Welcome to the Feminine Principle podcast, supporting women to let go of the ghosts from their past by exploring the hidden side of their female psyche with shamanic shadow work for women, with your host, Nicola Lucy.
Hello ladies, and welcome to another episode of the Feminine Principle podcast. And in today's episode, we are finding stability in the instability. So let me ask you, how stable do you feel in this moment, in this current COVID climate, in this world that you are currently living in? How stable do you feel in your family dynamics, in an intimate relationship, and in the relationship you have with yourself? How stable do you feel in your professional life, in your work, your career, or your business? You see, we've been conditioned to invest in the external world to give us a sense of our stability. If we have a good education, we'll get a good job and have a good career, or maybe open our own business. And then this in return will provide financial stability, which will then fund the lifestyle that we become accustomed to. The house, the mortgage, access to credit, access to holidays and the material living, and also to feed our addiction to consumerism. This is what financial stability brings to us. However, to maintain this level of financial stability and inner stability, we have to keep performing and conforming on the outside to keep everybody else feeling stable, whether that is a person or a company or our clients even. And oftentimes we compromise our own needs and boundaries in doing so. However, what we've learned is that nothing is permanent in life. Nothing is actually stable. It's all an illusion. People around us, loved ones, they die. Or they become sick with illness, or even we become sick with illness. We get divorced, or we go through a terrible breakup. We may lose our jobs or our homes, and suddenly we don't feel stable anymore. Because our whole sense of stability has been invested in somebody or something else giving it to us. And then obviously COVID arrived, and suddenly we were woken up as nothing in our world is stable anymore. And as a result, many of us have had an identity breakdown. Who are we? What's our purpose in this world? What am I supposed to be doing? And maybe where am I going wrong? What needs to change in my life to help me feel this sense of stability that I so desperately need to feel inside? And so for the past 7 years, I've been on an incredible, challenging, and even heartbreaking journey, finding my own stability in the instability. 7 years ago, I found myself without a home and completely untethered. I had a home in Italy with my loved one, with my partner, and I left that behind to return back to my family home in the UK to look after my mum, who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then within 6 months of making that transition, everything fell apart. And so suddenly I found myself without home and without the two people who I loved so much. So this completely untethered me. I didn't know who I was. Who am I? Who am I without these two people in my life? And who am I without a home? And so unconsciously, even though it was conscious, I set off on a journey to actually find home, to find where I belonged. I didn't seem to belong in Italy anymore, and I certainly didn't belong in the UK, so where was home? And so I got rid of all of my stuff, my furniture, all of my mementos, everything. I literally had 2 boxes left in the UK. And I set off with 1 suitcase and a rucksack. And everything that belonged to me, everything that I needed to fit into that 1 suitcase and a rucksack. And so during those 7 years, I traveled between 2 continents, 7 countries, 16 regions, and I lived in a total of 34 different houses, none of which were my own. Some I stayed for a matter of weeks, some I stayed in for a matter of months. And each time I thought, okay, this is the place. This is the place I want to put down roots. This is the place I want to belong. But then obviously it all fell apart because it wasn't the place, and it certainly wasn't the place where I belonged. This journey fundamentally gave me the opportunity to experience who I was without roots, who I was without the physical presence of the two people I love the most in the world, and who was I without my attachment to all the material and physical stuff that actually gave me a sense of my identity. And so while I began this search, looking for home on the outside again, I realized that I was so afraid of actually settling down. I was actually really afraid of putting down roots, because the unconscious fear that was driving me was linked to the wounding and the trauma and the belief that if I put down roots, it would be taken away from me. Anything could happen. And therefore, did I really want to leave myself so exposed and so vulnerable? And so I tried to control my environment. I tried to control everything around me to give me that sense of stability, because ultimately I did not feel that stability in myself. What I actually came to realize was that I actually really loved to live a minimalistic lifestyle. I really don't like to fill my house. I don't like to fill my life with stuff, with belongings, with mementos that create my identity. I actually like to live in Airbnbs and apartments which were not personal in any way, shape or form. But they gave me the most basic needs, which was a roof over my head, which was access to the internet, which was access to the space and the different culture around me, the environment. And in that, I learned to appreciate the surroundings that I found myself living in. I found myself really challenged when I lived in a city, being surrounded by unnatural lighting, by constant hum and buzzing of electricity and noise. And I found that I actually really enjoyed being out in nature, in those houses, those homes where I stayed, where I was really out in the middle of nature, connected to nature, where I could hear the wind blowing through the trees, the birds singing in the morning, and felt like I was really connected with myself. And in that environment, I really started to thrive. And what I also learned was that the more that I leaned into this sense of instability that I felt, the more I could feel stable on the inside. Because with each move that I made, I never really knew where I was going until literally a week before. And so I got used to packing everything within an hour and being on a bus, a plane, or a train to move on to the next destination. And so I really got used to being in that energy, to swing from place to place, never knowing where I was going to. So it really gave me a deep appreciation of being in the unknown. And I recognized that the more that we embrace being in the unknown, the more that we can step into more of our potential. And as this journey grew deeper, I started to feel my own sense of stability on the inside. And I recognized that the more that I was projecting my needs of stability on the external, onto anything external, the more unstable I felt on the inside. And the more that I experienced COVID, for example, and the more that I felt how unstable the world was, I started to realize that my sense of stability on the inside, no matter what is going on the outside, is my responsibility. And if I really wanted to feel stable on the inside, then that was fully in my power to do so. And so I started to look at where I felt unstable. And so obviously I'm a shamanic practitioner who specializes in shadow work for women. You know, this is my gift, it's my power, it's my potential, it's my knowledge and my wisdom. I know how to do this. I don't need anything in the external world to give me permission to do that. But because I was projecting that sense of instability on the outside, thinking that running a successful business on the outside would give me that sense of stability, and I was so wrong. What I realized was that my creativity, my connection to the Great Mother, to the divine, to nature, fueled my sense of stability on the inside, because it was coming from a place of real pleasure and passion. And so the more that I honed in on this, the more that my business started to thrive, because I wasn't doing it from the outside in, I was doing it from the inside out. And suddenly I felt stable, I felt different. And so the more in which I tapped into this, the more I recognized that now I feel stable on the inside. And the more that I was seeking stability on the outside in the form of a home, I decided to let go of that principle. I'm not going to look for home anymore. I trust that when I'm ready, home will come. And so home literally did fall into my lap. And so for the past couple of years, we have been backwards and forwards looking for a home here in Sicily. We never found one. We've traveled the whole of the island and we never found one because, again, I was looking for home on the outside. I wasn't looking for it on the inside. But this sense of stability on the inside that I was starting to nurture from my creativity and passion, I started to feel at home in my own body. I started to feel really at home in my gifts and my strengths and my talents. The more that I felt at home, the more content I was with moving through the instability. And then literally, the beginning of summer, a place presented itself. A place in which it had all the ingredients of what I would call home. An old farmhouse in Sicily with beautiful olive groves, with chickens that lay fresh eggs every morning, with cats, which I absolutely adore. And so suddenly I found myself with this place, and it literally just arrived on our doorstep, somebody saying, "Oh, we believe you're looking for a place." And the moment that I saw it, I knew that we were going to stay here. I knew that we were going to be here. We were going to spend some of our life here. And so me and my partner, we decided that we would like to have this experience. Okay, let's experience what this home means now. Now that I've found home on the inside, let me experience who I am with a home, even if it is only for the next 12 months. And so I've manifested home, but not through searching and seeking and going crazy on the outside world. I'd found it simply because I was able to be in my own energy and be home in my own body, in my own power, and in my own potential. And what was actually quite funny was that the moment that we moved in, I suddenly felt really, really unstable. Because in that moment, I realized that the owners could actually decide that they didn't want to rent it out for 12 months because this was something new to them as well. They could take it away from us. And then during the summer, we also had the forest fires. You know, Mother Nature can come in and burn down your house in a matter of minutes, and you'd have nothing. And so I felt really, really unstable having this home. And so once again, I realized that the moment that I felt unstable, I was coming to it from fear. I was coming to it from the head, and I'd become disconnected from the home I deeply felt within me. And so this was my cue to return back to my body. My body, when I return back home, is always deep in my womb space. To bring my attention and my awareness deep into my womb space so I can feel my roots inside of me. And that is presence. So being present in the home within the self, I suddenly was able to lean into the instability on the outside and once again feel stable on the inside. And so what I realized throughout this journey was that if I can find this sense of stability within myself, then I can help other women to do that too. Because going through a major life change or a midlife crisis is not easy. It completely knocks us out of sync. It completely disconnects us from who we are. And so we become trapped in the mind. We become trapped in the chaos. And we're desperately seeking something or somebody to tether us to a sense of stability. And this just simply reflects back how unstable we feel on the inside because, again, we've invested everything that would give us a sense of stability in the external. And so what I've experienced from this is that the more in which my clients, for example, feel that sense of stability on the inside, the more that they're able to change their life and their relationships according to their own nature, their own needs, their own strengths, and their own boundaries. Finding themselves, being at home in themselves, and trusting that no matter what happens in the external world, they'll always have that sense of stability within, because they'll always know how to feed that deep connection and nurture it into being, so it becomes part of their day-to-day life. It becomes part of their energy, becomes part of their vibration. And so, ladies, let me ask you, where in your personal or your professional life do you currently feel unstable? What or whom or where have you invested time, energy, and love in your external world that is actually giving you a false sense of stability? And what or who are you most afraid of losing because your whole sense of identity is attached to the stability that they or it gives you?
Are you ready to break free from the ghosts of your past, to live with more freedom and a clear sense of purpose and inner confidence? If so, book a chat with me to explore the potent magic of one-to-one shadow walking sessions at thefeminineprinciple.com.